Good morning, everybody on YouTube. It's your buddy Chopadong coming at you another episode of Chop Talk, brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for everything daily fantasy sports related, from MMA to PGA to NBA to NFL to all the sports I could possibly list without falling out of my chair dizzy. What I'm trying to do is get into MLB stuff, transfer us over into NFL stuff. I'm waiting on some more NFL content to drop. So what you're going to need to do before prices go up is jump down into the comments section, click that link to DFSArmy.com, become a VIP, use coupon code CHOP for that 10% savings, because once again, friends don't let friends pay retail. Just what we do. We try to pay it forward, we try to pass it along, and we're trying to make you a better player when it comes to daily fantasy sports, no matter what sport it is you play. You know where to find me out here on Twitterland. You also know where to find me inside our Slack channels. At Chopadong is the name, Eating Chalk is the game. Today, let's go into the baseball research station again. I know, same thing. Lather, rinse, repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat. That's what we do. We formulate a process. We stick with the process, because when the process works, variance just goes up and down through the process. We're not worried about the results. We know what we're doing works. So let's show you once again why it works, or how to find the numbers that make it all work out. Now, I'm jumping in, and what I do is I sort by K percentage when I go to the starting pitchers tab. I want to pull all the high strikeout pitchers up to the top, and I want to start adding them up. That's where I get my K score. Opponent versus handedness and the K score of the pitcher. 30.1, 19.8 is what gets us that 499. That's right. That's a 500. It's not exactly 500. It's a 499 discount on that K score. So get in there while we're hot. I'm just joking there. 480, or was it 488 for Verlander? These are the two lead dogs on the slate. When I look at their salaries compared, neither one makes a significant jump. J.A. Happ might be the best one as far as the DK gap shot. But what I'm trying to look at is who has the potential to score the points tonight. When you get strikeouts, you erase earned runs. You can give that ball up over the wall if you've got 2 or 3 strikeouts to recover the damage. But the guys that pitch to contact are not DFS pitchers. By the way the scoring systems are set up, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to waste a bunch of time on those guys, because you have to get the win and you have to get the quality start to get that extra 10 points, whereas really that's just 3 extra strikeouts for a Verlander. When I scroll over to the Vegas lines section here, I see Paxton's the underdog, Verlander's the favorite. They go head-to-head tonight, minus 130 out of Stripling and minus 222 out of Happ. I could look down here toward a Porcello and chase those points if I want to, but you know why I'm not going to? Look at his K-score. K-score for Porcello is all the way down to 21.2% on himself, 23% on his opponent, and we're looking at a 442. That's pretty low. I like staying up closer to 500 if I can. And then I'm looking at the DFSA grades, and he's only a 60. The 99 and the 93 is where I'll likely be for cash games. I might take a shot at the 78 on Stripling, because again, he's got the 500 K score. I don't like targeting pitchers in Coors Field. He's in Colorado, but sometimes when you've only got very few pitchers to choose from, that's what you have to do. My 4 playable pitchers tonight went right down the line with K score. Paxton, Verlander, Stripling, and Happ. These are the guys that I'm looking at. We got a couple of cheap ones, a couple of expensive ones. They're all roughly in the same K score range, upper 400s. And we've got okay DFSA grades. I'm not a real fan of the slate. I don't think that the pitching is terribly obvious. With that 19.8% on the left-handers out of Houston, or facing left-handed pitching out of Houston, I don't see a lot of upside in Paxton. I see him being a little bit overpriced, but then when I see that 99 on the DFSA grade, it makes me kind of wonder what I'm missing, because I look very simply at on-the-surface numbers. My job is to point you in the right direction, and then you make the final decisions from there. If you want to dive into swinging strike or hard contact, that's fine. If you want to slide all the way over here, look at, pitch counts and quality starts, and jump all the way over here and look at home splits, roads, you go, you knock yourself out, man. I'm done. I don't need to do that. I'm looking at the price, I'm looking at the K score, and I'm looking at the Vegas odds, and that's what's telling me where these pitchers are going to be in good spots. If they check the simple boxes, they're in a good spot. I'll let luck take its way from there, because after all, hitting a round ball with a round bat's not super easy. There's a lot of bloopers and chinkers and nubbers and stuff that find their way into gaps that fall as hits that should never have been hits, and there's a lot of smash shots that get taken over the wall, or diving stops by the shortstop that become outs that should have been hits. That's just the game we play, and luck is a big part of it. But over 162 games, if you keep playing the correct odds over and over and over again, lather, rinse, repeat, you're going to do okay. And that's really what we're trying to do. Is I don't care what I do tonight. I'm only worried about what I'm doing this month or what I'm doing over the course of the season. That's how I'm going to grind up my bankroll, and that's how I'm going to make my decisions going forward, and keeping processes in place that put me on the players that do that exactly consistently, I guess I should say, over the course of the season. When we dive into the bats, we need to first sort by DFSA grade and find the terrible pitchers. I mean, it stands to reason we like the good pitchers for our own DFS team, and we're going to like the bad pitchers for our bats, right? So I'm looking at these top 3 or 4 guys. I might get to the 4th guy, but these 3 for sure are in play, and I'm writing them down. New York, Boston, and Tampa. This is the opponents section because we're looking at the pitchers. This is the opponents section. New York, Boston, Tampa, maybe Pittsburgh. I write those guys down. I come all the way back over here to Vegas again, and I go to the opponent runs. Team runs would be the pitchers' teams. Opponent runs would be who they're facing. Sort by descending and look for anything over a 5, anything close to a 5. Top 4 names are on the board. Huaro, Anderson, Borucki, Stripling. Stripling's a pitcher that we don't mind, but he's also given up a lot of runs tonight to Colorado, being in Coors Field. That is a dicey pick, just so you know. Now we're going to go over to the pitchers. We're going to take not the K percentages. We're going to scroll over a little bit further and get into the righties and the lefties. And I'm going to sort descending by the right-handed Wobas, and I'm looking for double red. Remember, double red is red Woba against for righties, red Woba against for lefties. That tells me the pitcher struggles with both sides of the plate. That tells me that the lineup, it doesn't have an easy out in it necessarily, that the lineup probably has a better chance at turning over again and again and again and giving us that 4-run, 5-run, 6-run inning so that when we stack that offense, we correlate all those points and we come out ahead. It's just a logical way to look at things. I don't need all those other stats. All I need is this. Show me a pitcher struggling against both sides of the plate, and I'll show you a good offense on the night. So Hess is in there. We come down a little further to Huardo, whatever, a little bit lower. Porcello, maybe Anderson. 318, now we're starting to get out of the pinks, and we're starting to get back into the neutrals and the greens. So Tyler Anderson, maybe, maybe not. So when I kick over here and I look at the opponents again, I see Tampa Bay checking another box. I see Huardo checking another box. Porcello, Anderson. I've written these down. I've now discovered 2-star offenses. New York is on both lists. Actually, 3-star offenses. New York's on all 3 lists. High implied run total, double red, and facing a poorly ranked pitcher. I look at Boston. They check 2 boxes. Tampa Bay, 2 boxes. LA, 2 boxes. And my GPP picks would be the 1-boxers, your Colorados, your Pittsburghs, your Torontos. Guys that aren't really checking a ton of the boxes, but are checking at least 1. That tells me there's at least a little bit of potential there. And if any of these other offenses go off, like San Francisco and Baltimore scored 10 runs each tonight, guess what? I lose. I was never going to be on those offenses to begin with. You have to draw lines in the sand when you play this game, because when you're on these slates that have 4, 5, 6, 7 games, what you're trying to do is I'm trying to target a couple of combos. I don't know which bats in the Boston offense are going to go off. It might be the 1-3-5. It might be the 2-4-7. It might be the 8-9-1 wrap stack. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what's going to happen in the Yankees offense. I know it might be the 2-3-4 or the 6-7-8 or whatever, and I don't know if the 2-3-4 with New York and the 1-7-9 in Boston is going to be the actual best combination of those guys. What I know is those 2 offenses are in good spots. And so I'm going to mix and match and mix and match. And not just Boston and New York. Remember, I also mentioned Tampa Bay, LA. You need to pick from the best of the best offenses that you can, because you can't cover everybody. I don't care about, Seattle and Houston tonight because they're facing good pitchers. If they go off, oh well. Good for the guy that rostered him, that had the cojones in the dump truck to be able to roster him. Because that guy is going to win a lot of money if that happens. I don't think the chances of that happening are very good. Therefore, I'm not going to take a shot on that unless the payout is enormous. If the payout's 10 grand on $1, sure, take a shot on it. But generally speaking, when we play the best odds, the most likely scenario, if I ran this scenario, this exact slate 1,000 times, most of the time, I'm going to see Boston, New York, LA, Tampa Bay, those are going to be the bats that perform. Now, am I going to have the odd night where San Francisco and Texas are the ones that do the damage? Of course. And those odd nights are outlier performances, and that's the stuff that wins you GPPs. That's great. If you see an indicator that leads you to thinking that could happen tonight, go for it. But realize it's an outlier and realize it's not going to happen very often as indicated by the numbers. Therefore it won't be chalky, and therefore it'll win you a ton of money when it happens. But because it won't happen very often, you may play that all year long and it may only happen once. You need to get paid better than, all the money that you spent over the year if you want to turn a profit. I tend to play a little closer to the vest, a little more conservative style. That's the type of coaching that I do. That's the type of play that I do. But my job is to do is to take you as a player and stop the bleeding and keep you from losing money and redepositing all the time. My job is to plug the big leaks in your boat so that you don't take on so much water. Then we can talk about what are we going to do from here, or how do we really max out our upside. My job is to put a system in place for you that is going to basically shore up the fundamentals and make you a competitive player night in and night out. And then from there, we can fine tune it once we get to that point, okay? When I go into the trends tab after I've identified those pitchers, I'm looking at the WOBAs that are going to be over 350 because those are generally my playable guys. You can see I put my value list out there already. That's the over 400 stuff you see me do on occasion, if you follow me on Twitter anyway. Now I come down here and now I've got all these over 350 guys. And what offenses I say we're starting in? 3-star offense in the New York Yankees. I don't know why this offense is not in there. Oh, is there nobody on New York hitting over 350? Oh, not under $3,000. There's the little number filter that I had kicked over for the value. There they are. Stanton and Gregorius are the only ones. That doesn't mean you can't roster Hicks with them, or you can't roster somebody, Greg Bird or somebody with them. It means that these are the two that should be in your stack when you start it off. Go ahead, add a third piece, add a fourth piece. That's on you. Stick with a mini stack. Maybe only have them as a one-off. That's fine. I wouldn't run a Neil Walker as a one-off or a Brett Gardner as a one-off because they're not running hot right now. But I wouldn't mind throwing Stanton in there as a one-off. Dude's got double dong power any given night. Kick over to Boston, and we're going to find a hotter offense as a unit. This offense has maybe a little bit better chance at flipping that lineup over a couple of times and scoring big runs. Not that the New York Yankees can't score big runs, but I can't pinpoint who's likely to do the damage. Over here, I can run, Betts, Martinez, Pierce, or Pierce, Bogarts, Moreland, or Martinez, Moreland, Devers if he plays, or, Betts, Benintendi, Pierce, or whatever. I can run so many different combinations of stacks that if Boston scores about 7 or 8 runs tonight, I probably have a big chunk of it because these are generally the guys that are doing the damage. I could sit with the hot guys if I wanted to, Pierce and Martinez and Devers if he plays. These would be the guys that I would probably start my first stack with. Wham, wham, wham. I get a little value play in Devers at 2,800, which is too cheap for a 794 WOBA. But again, I'm not following the injury news closely yet. I will look at that later on in the day. If he plays, if he's been playing the past game or two, then this would be a bet I'd most definitely be on. Now, because it's valuable and it's sitting in a good offense, and I'd run him as a one-off if I didn't want to play the expensive bats because I wanted to be in New York or I wanted to be in Coors Field or I wanted to whatever. These are all of the combinations you have, and this is why I don't mind giving out this kind of information because we're still not coming up with the same lineups. I don't give out lineups. I only give out the information. If you want lineups, go pay some seller, and trust me, he gets dusted by the coaching and content inside DFS Army. Tampa Bay, Wendell, Gomez, if he plays, 26 at-bats last 14 days. And Malik Smith. Wendell and Smith would be the two guys I would start with. And then I would mix and match, around that. And who are the Dodgers? Turner if he plays. Bellinger, Dozier, Puig, Peterson. These are the 4 I'd be focused on unless Turner plays, and I might focus on him a little bit. Look at him, all over 400 WOBA, doing great. If I scroll over a little farther and show you a little more of the tool and show you the ISOs, over the last 7 days, look at him all over 200, in some cases 300 and 500. Jock Peterson's been hitting him some bombages. At 500 some odd ISO is obviously not sustainable, but get on the train while it's hot. And while it's mid 3K, while it's cheap, get on that train. Look at them priced up on DK. Somebody thinks they're in a good spot. If I had to pick 2 offenses tonight, I'd probably pick LA and Boston if I could afford it. I might run a Ross Stripling with them, but the reason why is because they are the hotter units. whereas Tampa Bay and New York only had 2 bats each. And then these are the guys that we'd be looking at as well for the secondary offense that we'd be looking to stack. Run a 4x4, run a 4-3-1, do whatever you run a 3-3-2. But generally speaking, on smaller slates with smaller possibilities going off, you're going to stack up a little bit harder because you want to hit that offense really hard when it hits. Now, let's jump into the early slates. Let me set this up here really quick, and then we'll kick out of here hopefully in the next 5 minutes or so. Why is it not kicking over? This is driving me batty. Here, I'll do this, then I'll do this, and I'll do this. That's a fast way to do it. Hold the control button down, you can start clicking away, and they turn blue. It's amazing how that happens. So we'll leave that at the 350. We'll kick off the LA Dodgers. We should get all of our 1 o'clock starts here. We'll do the same thing with the pitchers tab. We'll start the process all over again. Why? Because it works. So now these are my pitchers. I'm looking for price. Uh-oh, price down. That's a bad indicator. Price down, bad indicator. Price down, price down, price down. Nobody's priced up. DK doesn't like any of these guys today. That's really funny. I've not seen that before. Scroll over here to Vegas odds. Let's start there. Spot the big ones, top 2. Kluber and Guerra. Guerra's obviously going to be cheaper than Kluber. So if you want big bats, you go with Guerra on Vegas alone. And if you want DFSA grade, you're probably going to take Kluber. Yep, 99.8. Odd that he's priced down. Sort by descending, bring the K percentage guys to the top. Real short slate, only got a couple to look for. 51 out of Kluber, 43 out of Berrios. Berrios is a GPP guy. He's up, he's down, he's up, he's down. 410. There's a 470 out of Garrett. Look at this. This is where K-score provides the sliding scale. If one team doesn't do the striking out, the other team better. If one team does, 25% of the time, the other does 20, it's a 450. And then if the other team does 25 and the other team does 20, it's still a 450. It's telling you that the overall matchup is pretty strong. So what we've got here is over a 500, then low 4, and then a 470, which is a great number. That's why Guerra and Kluber are 1 and 2 on the slate. And you found it in what, 45 seconds or so? Come over here to, we don't need the DFSA grade. We can sort it by ascending if we want, just to bring the jump to the top. But look at this. It's not bad. These are not necessarily guys I'd be stacking against. So we're kind of on our own today with this slate. Gonzalez, Berrios, Sanchez. It may or may not be the better offenses. Maybe some of these falter. So instead, let's do this. Let's switch it up. Let's look for the double red, just in case, because it's such a good indicator. Red, red, Sanchez. That's one I'd stack against. It's really the only one I'd stack against. I might take Erlin and Guerra. I might take lefties against those two. So if I'm at Sanchez, I'm taking the Washington Nationals and then Milwaukee and San Diego lefties. That's a good game plan based on the numbers. But I'm going into the trends tab. What did I say? Washington is the lead, kind of, because they're facing the double red, and that's our tiebreaker situation. We've got our 350 Wobas again. Let's look at Washington. Soto, Zimmerman, Harper, Defoe. These are the bats I'd be running. Then when I come over now, I'm just going to be looking for hot teams. I'd probably start with Washington, probably be my lead bats on the slate. And now I'm going to start with Atlanta, Flowers, Markakis, Culberson. Cleveland, Ramirez, Lindor, Brandt. They're all in play. They're all hitting over 350 Wobas. Milwaukee, I'd be focused on lefties. Moose, Yelich, Shaw. Those would probably be my bats. I don't know that I'd throw any of the others in there. San Diego, also lefties. So Spangenberg, Janikowski, good cheap bats there. Maybe they make the world go round for you. I don't know that I'd be using any of these guys up here as hot as they're running, but, as GPP type picks, go for it. Minnesota to round them all out. Kepler, Rosario, Sano, Forsythe, Cave. These are the guys that I'd be looking at. And here's what I'd be doing. Because so much of this is open and so much of this is, a little bit more unpredictable because the DFSA grades are good for the pitchers. There's no really, really bad pitching to pick on. I'd maybe, instead of doing a 4x4 stack, I'd probably back down. And I'd probably do more of a 3-3-2. Or 3-2-2-1, whatever. And I'd try and maybe spread out and capture some, and this would be more of a cash game slate for me. I'd pick the best of the best hot bats from some of those. I might pick 2 bats or 3 from Washington, and then I'd probably limit myself to 2 bats in the other offenses. And I'd hope Washington has a good day. If Washington has a good day and the others are, if Washington only has a mediocre day, only scores 3, 4 runs, maybe I did okay by getting the correct bats. I've got better chances with 3 bats in there. The other offenses are a little bit more random, a little harder to pinpoint. So I might limit myself to just 2, maybe 1 bat and try and hit the hot bat, the guy who's running the hottest in the offense, and take it from there. All I'm trying to do is when I see a clear path, a clear target of pitching and bats and combination of them matching up against each other, I'm going to stack it pretty hard. When I don't see that, when I see a bunch of mediocrity or a bunch of average, I'm not stacking that as hard. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to spread out at that point and cover a couple of different offenses. And when I cover, instead of focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 offenses, instead when I try to cover 4 or 5 offenses, now I'm going to cash games. That's more of a cash game slate for me because so many people try to go into a slate and say, and this will be the tip we'll wrap it up with today. So many people go into the end of a slate and say, or go into a slate saying, oh, I want to play cash games, or oh, I want to play. No. Backwards. It took me years to figure that out, that you got to let the slate come to you. You've got to go in with a completely open mind. You have to have the fundamentals in place so that you can build either lineup depending on the day, and play either contest depending on the day. But you need to go into the slate looking at general targets. This pitcher, that pitcher might be my arms. This pitcher, that pitcher might be who I stack against. Go confirm it with the numbers and then start seeing how you feel as you start gathering all of that data. Because what you're looking at, when you look at, oh man, 8 guys on that offense are great and there aren't really any other offenses that compare with the matchup spot, boom, GPP. Stack that sucker up in 3 or 4 different ways. Mix in Team B and Team C and Team D in 3 different lineups, A, B, A, C, A, D type combinations, and switch your stacks up a little bit. 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And now you're covering bases, but you're staying primarily focused in that one offense that really stands out, GPP. Now, when you spread out and you can't find it and you don't really know what guys are doing what and what all the mediocrity and who's going to actually have the good game, I don't know, I can't tell. That's when you start spreading out and going more cash because you have to really hit it right and you don't know where you're trying to hit it. Therefore, get out of those GPPs and play more of those cash games. Let other people in baseball stack up against you when you start to spread out. What you're doing is you're improving your floor. You're giving up some ceiling, but you're improving your floor. You're letting those guys go for the ceiling and miss. When they go for the ceiling and miss, you're sitting right there at the floor, letting them fall right below the floor to the, I'm right into the basement, and you just take all their money. So there's 2 ways to play that, but you need to be able to read the slate as you're compiling your numbers. If you need that kind of coaching, you jump into dfsarmy.com, you'll hit me up at Chapadong, and let's talk. Let's get you to become a better player. I don't care if you're a beginner, an intermediate, or what, we can talk. And if you're an expert, hell, I'd love to learn from you. I've got experts out there that can help you. I can help you in some areas, and you can help me in other areas. And that's how the community at DFS Army has been built. And that's why we're as good as we are, and that's why we're winning like we're winning out on Twitter. You're seeing the screenshots, and that's why we're starting to dominate the DFS industry. You need to get in before the prices go up. Follow the coupon code CHOP. Follow the link, get in here, like and subscribe to this channel if you want the information. You would put it in your RSS feed. You'll get the info as soon as it drops. Follow Chin Music. The video is usually in there. And I will see you when I see it. Later, guys.